Hey guys, Ashley here with Husband and Wife Outdoor Life. We just got back from our Oklahoma trip where we did the Horsethief Springs Trail, and I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what our planned route was and what we actually ended up taking and doing. We had a few things change thanks to weather and a couple other issues we had along the way, so here we go. This is Cedar Lake up here. This is a state park campground in Oklahoma. It's actually a little harder to find than we anticipated and not really well marked as far as like where you can camp and where you can't camp. The map that they provide of the trail loop is not super great, so we actually went ahead before the trip and had another map made, which I have right here in front of me, and I uploaded all of the Backpacker Magazine GPS coordinates through my Topo map company, and was able to get this printed up on this nice like kind of waterproof paper. It is a little bit larger than I wanted, but it's very detailed, and it was nice to have this since the trail is reportedly not well marked, and we found that to be pretty true. So the campground that we stayed at the first night is a state park, and there's two sections to the campground. There's a north section and a south section. So when we were actually looking for our campsite, which is located like right here, we were driving all around these loops and we couldn't find what we were looking for. So you actually have to come back to the main road, and there's a stop sign here, and turn and come into the south campground if you're camping at Sandy Beach. So we stayed here, and then our plan was the next morning to get up and to park the car here on Holson Valley Road, which on their map indicates a parking lot. So we drove to this spot here, and we were unable to locate that parking spot. It's basically just like a little grassy spot on a big curve, and it's really not well marked. It's hard to see from the road. It's easy to drive by. So Dan didn't want to park his car on this curve here, so him and Matt drove the road back to the campground, and they parked here, and then they were going to hike this back, which according to this map is only 1 mile. Looking at the GPS later, it's actually much longer than that, but they got a little confused when they got into this area here. The trail kind of branches off into a bunch of different horse trails and the campground itself, and it's kind of confusing to follow. The horse trails are not even on the map, so it makes it difficult to figure out where exactly you're at. So they lost the trail, so they actually walked back to the road and walked it back to where Laura and I stayed right here. So they had done a bunch of extra miles to start, which we didn't want to have to like crush miles that day, and they were already tired, so we decided to, instead of, which was our original plan, was to hike this loop counterclockwise, which on this map is easier to see. We were going to hike it counterclockwise and camp here-ish, and then the next morning hike out. We ended up leaving from this parking area and hiking to camp around here. So the next morning we woke up and noticed that the weather was turning a little bit sour. It was like, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I checked the radar again. I fell back asleep, and the wind actually woke me up at like 3:30, and I made the decision to check again at 4:30 and see what the radar was going to show, because it was starting to look kind of bad. And so come like 4:20 in the morning or so, I checked the radar, and there was one band of rain and thunderstorms that was coming through that was pretty small, and then there was another band that was coming through that was quite large, and that second band had the potential to create tornadoes, 2-inch hail, and damaging winds for our actual camping area. So we made the call to wake up Laura and Dan and pack up camp and head out early, which meant we had to walk through that first band of rain and thunderstorms, but the second band wouldn't actually hit us until we had reached the safety of a state park. So we broke camp and began hiking, and we made it to about here-ish before it started raining, and it started raining really hard, and then it started to thunder and lightning. Fortunately, we made it up the ridge to that trail junction, and then back to this parking area, and it had pretty much slowed down the thunderstorm by then. It was just raining, and then we walked back to the campground where the car was parked. So that was pretty much it. The campground was nice. It needed some better signage at Cedar Lake, definitely, so you know kind of where you're going and where the different campgrounds are. And I don't know if it's just because it was the off season or what. The other thing is, if you do go, you're going to want a better map than this one. This is not very detailed, especially if you're doing the same section we did. This is not well marked, and there's a lot of side shooting trails and different road crossings that aren't on that map. So make yourself a nice topographical map so you know where you're at. This was by My Topo. I think I mentioned that before, so I can post some instructions on how to make this if people are interested, but it was really easy, and I just ordered it and they shipped it right to my house. So you definitely want to get something a little more detailed than what they provide, but it's good to have both. It was nice to be able to reference both to kind of know where we were at and to make a good decision on our change in plans. So that's our trip. Hope you enjoyed watching both videos, and leave a comment if there's anything more you'd like to know, and we'll talk to you guys later, and stay tuned for our next adventure.